My name is Anthony Barker, and I want to start with a night that ended everything. Not with a fight, not with tears, but with a laugh. Alicia's friends came over that Saturday. I'd cooked. I remember that clearly because I'd been marinating the chicken since morning. A recipe her mother had taught me, actually, which now feels like a cruel joke. Diana, Alicia's oldest friend, asked me about a promotion I'd been up for at the firm. I opened my mouth to answer, and Alicia beat me to it. Anthony? Come on, Diana. Men like him are a dime a dozen. Replaceable. She said it like it was obvious, like it was just a fact of nature, like gravity or taxes. The table went quiet for about 2 seconds. Then someone laughed nervously, and the conversation shifted. Alicia didn't even look at me. She reached for her wine glass and moved on. I smiled. I said, "Let me grab another bottle." And I walked to the kitchen. I stood at the counter for a long time. My hands were flat on the granite. I was listening to the laughter coming through the wall, and something in my chest just closed. I didn't go back to the table that night. I went to the garage. Not to cry, not to punch a wall. I just needed to be somewhere she wasn't. I sat on the hood of my car in the dark, and I thought about my father. He used to say, "A man who explains his worth to someone who already dismissed it is a fool." I'd heard that sentence my whole life. I never thought I'd need it. But sitting there, listening to Alicia's laughter leak through the walls of the house I'd helped pay for, I realized something. She didn't say that by accident. She'd said it like she'd thought it many times before. Like it was something she already believed. Like replaceable was just a word she already had filed away for me. I went back inside that night. I helped clean up. I said goodnight to everyone like a normal human being. But something had shifted. I had made a decision. I just didn't announce it. Here's what most people don't understand about how I left. It wasn't impulsive. The night after the dinner party, I lay in bed next to Alicia, and I ran through everything. Not emotionally, I mean logistically. Bank accounts, the lease, the firm, my clients. I'd been building my consulting business in secret for 3 years by then. Not to hide it from her, but because every time I shared something I cared about, she found a way to make it smaller. The firm had 2 corporate contracts. We had a lease on office space downtown that I'd signed 2 months earlier. I hadn't told her. I lay there listening to her breathe, and I thought, she has no idea who she's sleeping next to, not because I was being arrogant, but because she'd never actually looked. I gave it 1 more week. 7 days to see if she'd bring it up, if she'd notice a shift, if she'd reach over in the middle of the night and say, "Are you okay?" I said something terrible. She didn't. On Saturday morning, she left for yoga. I waited until I heard her car back out of the driveway. Then I went upstairs and I packed 2 bags. Clothes, my laptop, a photograph of my parents from a nightstand. That was it. I left the furniture, the dishes, the life we built, all of it, because none of that was mine anymore. I'd given all of it to someone who'd looked me in the eye and told her friends I was replaceable. I called my mother from the car. "Mom, I'm leaving Alicia." There was a pause. Then she said, "I'll have your room ready." That was it. No lecture. No, I told you so. Just, the door is open. Come home. I cried the whole drive. I want to be honest about that. I cried like something was being pulled out of me, root and all, because I had loved Alicia Cross since I was 23 years old. I'd loved her through her insecurities, her sharp tongue, her restlessness. I'd built a life around being someone she could lean on, and she'd call me replaceable. So I left without saying a word, and I didn't look back. I heard this part from my cousin Marcus, who stayed friendly with some of Alicia's circle. At first, she told people I'd had some kind of episode, that I was going through something and needed space. Then the story shifted. I was immature. I was running from responsibility. He just couldn't handle being married to a strong woman. That was a version I heard twice. What Marcus said she couldn't explain was what happened whenever someone pressed her. She'd go quiet. Not defensive quiet. Not angry quiet. Just quiet. Like the real answer was somewhere underneath all the explanations, and she hadn't been able to get to it yet. He told me she cried through her entire first therapy session. That the therapist asked her one question about the marriage and she couldn't stop. Didn't even know why she was crying that hard. I'm not telling you this to feel good about it. I'm telling you because there's something Alicia was carrying that she never told me about. Something that happened after I left. Something I wouldn't find out for 7 years. The firm grew faster than I expected. Year 1, 2 clients and staff of 4. Year 2, a government contract that changed everything. Year 3, we expanded to 3 cities. By year 4, I was sitting in boardrooms with people who used to intimidate me, and I was the one asking questions. I didn't post about it, didn't buy a flashy car. My mother kept asking why I still drove the same truck, and I told her because the truck worked fine. I dated a little, nothing serious. There was a woman named Priya who was brilliant and kind, and I almost let myself fall. But something always pulled back. A door in me that wouldn't open all the way. My therapist, yes, I got one too, said I was afraid of being dismissed again. That somewhere in me, Replaceable had gotten into my foundation, like a crack in concrete. I was working on it. But I'll be honest, I still thought about Alicia. Not with longing, exactly. More like you think about a scar. Not because it still hurts, but because you remember exactly how it got there. I didn't know she was thinking about me too. I didn't know what she'd been carrying alone. 7 years, 2 months, and 11 days after I left. My phone buzzed on my desk during a Thursday afternoon meeting. I glanced at it. Alicia Barker. The room kept talking around me. Someone was presenting Q3 projections. I was staring at a name I hadn't seen on my phone in 7 years. The message preview showed one line. Anthony, I need to tell you something. It's not about us, but you deserve to know. I set the phone face down, finished the meeting, drove home, sat in my driveway for 20 minutes. Then I opened it. The full message was longer. She said she had been in therapy for 5 years. She said she'd done a lot of work on herself. She said she wasn't reaching out to reopen anything. But there was something she'd never told me. Something that happened after I left. And she'd been advised that carrying it alone wasn't fair. Not to her. Not to me. She asked if I'd be willing to meet. Public place. Just once. I stared at the message for a long time. And I typed back 2 words. When. Where. We met at a place called Linden and Company, a small coffee shop downtown that neither of us had history with. Neutral ground. I got there first. Sat with my back to the wall. Old habit. And then the door opened. Alicia walked in. 7 years changes a person. She looked quieter, somehow less performed. She used to walk into rooms like she was expecting people to watch. Now she walked like someone who'd stopped needing that. She saw me. Something move across her face. Not a smile. Not grief exactly. Something more complicated. Like recognition and weight at the same time. She sat down across from me. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Finally I said, "You look well." She said, "You look like you built something." She meant the confidence. She could see it. I didn't explain it. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. And she took a breath. "Anthony, 3 weeks after you left, I found out I was pregnant." The room didn't stop. The espresso machine kept going. Someone's phone rang in the background. But something inside me went completely still. I didn't speak. She kept going. Quietly, evenly, like she'd rehearsed this and still wasn't sure she could get through it. She said she'd found out at 3 weeks. She said she hadn't told me because I was gone and she was ashamed and she didn't want to come back out of obligation. She said she told herself she was protecting both of us. Then at 9 weeks, she miscarried. She said, "I was alone in the hospital. I told the nurse I was there with my husband. I don't know why I said that. You've been gone 6 weeks." I was looking at the table. I couldn't look at her face. She said, "I'm not telling you this to hurt you. I'm telling you because I've been carrying this for 7 years and my therapist told me, and she was right, that you deserve to know that it belonged to both of us, even if we weren't together anymore. The thing about grief is that it doesn't respect time. Right there in that coffee shop, I was grieving someone I never knew, a child I never got to imagine, a version of my life that disappeared before I even knew it existed. I finally looked up at her. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't falling apart. She clearly cried this out in every direction already. This was just the telling of it. I said, "Why now? After 7 years." She said, "Because I finally believe I deserve to stop hiding from it." I don't know how long I was in that coffee shop. An hour, maybe more. When I finally got outside, the afternoon had gone gray. I sat in my car, and I didn't start it. I called my mother. She picked up on the second ring. "Anthony, what's wrong?" I told her everything. About the message, about the meeting, about the pregnancy, about the hospital room, where Alicia had told a nurse her husband was there. My mother didn't say anything for a long time. Then she said, "That girl was alone in a hospital, losing your baby, Anthony. Whatever else is true, that part matters." I put my hand over my eyes. She kept going. "I'm not saying forgive her. I'm not saying go back. I'm saying don't close your heart to the grief just because it's complicated. That was your loss too." I sat in that car for 40 minutes. When I finally started the engine, I didn't know where I stood on Alicia. Not on forgiveness. Not on anything. But I knew one thing. I needed to go back. Not for her. For the conversation we hadn't finished. There was more she wasn't saying. I could feel it. Something else she was holding. So I called her. She didn't sound surprised when I called, like she'd been waiting. She said, "I thought you'd call." I didn't say everything. We met at her apartment that evening. It was small, tidy, nothing like the house we'd shared. No performance in it. Just a woman, living her actual life. She made tea. We sat at a small kitchen table. And then she reached into a drawer and put something in front of me. A photograph. Ultrasound, dated 7 years and 2 months ago. The kind you get the early scan. 8 weeks, grainy. A small white shape like a comma against gray. I picked it up. She said, "I've kept it in that drawer for 7 years. I used to take it out and look at it when I was certain I didn't deserve anything good. It was my punishment and my reminder at the same time." Her voice broke for the first time that night. "I called you replaceable in front of my friends. And 3 weeks later, I was holding a scan of our baby. Completely alone. I don't think there's a word for that kind of karma. But I felt it. I felt every day of it. I was still holding the photograph. I set it down on the table, carefully, like it was something that needed to be handled gently. "Alicia," I said, "I don't know what we're doing here. I'm not ready to call it anything yet. But I need you to know I believe you. I hear you. And I'm sorry you carried that alone." She nodded. She didn't ask for more than that. And for the first time since I was 23 years old, I felt like we were actually talking. Here's where I'm at now. I didn't go back to Alicia. Not the way you might be expecting. We didn't fall back into each other's arms and rewrite everything. I'm not that story. Real healing doesn't move like that. What I did was stop blocking her number. We talk sometimes, not every day, not with any title attached, but we talk. She's 3 years into her own business. Small, interior design, nothing flashy. She's good at it. She told me she started it because after I left and she couldn't use her pain to chase anyone else, she had to put it somewhere, so she put it into building something. I understood that. My firm closed a 9-figure contract last year. I didn't call her about it, but she saw an article and she sent me 2 words. "I see you." I put my phone down, went back to work. Then I picked it back up and replied, "I know. I don't know what we are. I don't know what we'll be, but I know this." She called me replaceable. So I left without saying a word. I built something she couldn't dismiss. She built something she couldn't hide from. And somewhere in the space between those 2 things, 2 people are slowly learning how to be honest with each other for the first time. Maybe that's enough for now. Maybe it's a beginning of something. I'm not rushing it. Men like me, the ones she called replaceable, we know how to be patient.